Today, I want to talk to you about one of the resources that we have on our website. It's actually one of my favorite resources. It's actually our cost and billing rate calculator. And we used it to, as the name suggests, to establish what our standard costs were based on our salaries and employees. And we also use it to estimate what we should be charging our clients based on that and based on the amount of margin that we wanted to make. You can download it from our website at highlysolutions.com. So without further ado, let me just show you how it works. Let me show you the spreadsheet. And here it is. It is a spreadsheet that we used and tested for many years while I was working in professional services myself. So I know it works, and it's a great way to estimate your standard costs and billing rates, and also to estimate your utilization targets as well for your members of staff. So as you can see from this spreadsheet, it has 5 tabs. Although only two of them are actually relevant to you, and they're the only 2 that we actually need to enter any data. The rest, as you can tell, one is the instructions, and I have written some fairly detailed instructions if you don't like watching videos. The next one is a calculation sheet, which obviously just shows you how we came to the calculations, and it's a validation sheet, as all good spreadsheets should have a validation sheet, because lots of spreadsheets have lots and lots of errors. But let's not digress. The most important thing, as you can probably tell, is you just need to enter the fields that are in yellow, and also enter data in the tabs that are in yellow. So I'm just going to go to the data sheet. The data sheet is where you would enter all the data about your business so that the spreadsheet can do its calculations. First thing, you just need to enter your business name, and really that's for a reporting point of view. Then you need to enter the period length. If you want to be a bit more accurate and a little bit more precise, or you're just trying this out and you want to make sure it works, then you can actually select a shorter period of time. So a year, half year, quarter, or even a month if you wish. Obviously, if you do that, you need to adjust these numbers accordingly. Then you just say what the start date is of the period that you're interested in. Then you just say the number of working days a week. Of course, that's 5 for the majority of companies and the majority of places. But for whatever reason your company has a 6-day week, then you could put 6 or 7 days, whatever. It can be anything between 5 and 7 days. So if, for example, your company only works 4 days a week, you put 4. Then you enter the number of public holidays there are in the year, the estimated number of sick leave days. And this you would actually probably look at your whatever HR system you have to estimate how many people are off sick. And again, this really is not the expected number of sick leave days, but the whole idea of the spreadsheet is to be as accurate as possible. If you just have PTO, then you just leave this blank and enter the average vacation or whatever PTO days in here. And again, you can actually change the values here. But of course, the most important thing is that you get the information from the calculation sheet here. In this grid, we just have the labor grades within your organization and a bunch of information about them, so that so the summary sheet can do all the calculations and the hard work. Information you need to enter here is fairly straightforward. Just enter the number of employees in each labor grade. And this company, as you can see, has 30 employees. You would just then enter what the average vacation days are, or PTO days, for those members of staff. Again, you can do it for each the average days for each member of staff, also each group. So again, this spreadsheet has been designed for some flexibility. Any other personal days that you want to take. Then you would enter in here the estimated overtime. Overtime isn't necessarily something you'd want to put in these spreadsheets, but we added overtime because the professional services company that I worked in, staff did typically work overtime, and we wanted, and in many cases that overtime was charged to clients. So we wanted these standard costs and billing rates to be as accurate as possible. So we actually factored in the expected overtime that those members of staff worked. Then you would just estimate non-chargeable time. We've broken this out into 3 different buckets, but the truth is, the most important thing is you just want to know what your total non-chargeable time would be. In this case, it would be 70% for this type of employee role. And in this one, for example, a junior role, it would only be 15%. And again, this is based on the typical professional services business, because we want this spreadsheet, even though the data in here is made up, it is realistic. Next thing you'd want to do is just enter what your budgeted staff costs are for each of these roles. So you do need to do a little bit of work just to make sure you understand what your budgeted staff costs are per labor grade, and not just your total staff costs. The underlying assumption when putting this spreadsheet together is that you do have a budget you have done your estimate and you have got a budget, so you do know what your budgeted costs are going to be. If not, that you do need to go away and work that out, or at least put in last year's actual costs as a frame of reference. And then finally, you would obviously want to put in your personal costs as well. These are the sort of travel, put company cars. Company cars probably staff costs, but perhaps travel, non-chargeable travel, and other sort of types of personal costs that you would add here as well. And then one number I did miss off deliberately was actually your total cost for the period. So this is the total cost for the period, includes staff costs and personal costs. Is actually your total cost for the period. Then, of course, you've got your staff costs and your personal costs. And this item here in C12 is your total costs that are non-attributable to staff costs, which I guess you could say it in a different way. It's just your standard overheads, things like rent, rates, advertising, marketing, all of those costs. Again, these numbers are trying to be as realistic as possible. Most companies, most professional services businesses, about 65 to 70% of the business is typically related to staff costs, and only about 30% is actually related to non-staff costs. I'm going to ignore the calculation sheet. You can obviously look at it. There's nothing to hide in here. I also be aware I haven't put any protection on the sheet, because the idea is that you guys, if you, for example, have more than this number of labor grades, you can add them in. If you want to add more, that's fine. You can just need to add them in. You do need to add them in here, but you do also need to add them in your calculation pages. So if you want any help doing that, please feel free to reach out to us. The spreadsheet is free, and if you want to talk to us, we will happily help you to set it up if you need any adjustments made to it. And again, that would be free of charge. This resource is our gift to you. Okay, so once you've entered that information, then you could go to this. You should go to the summary sheet just to see what that information is throwing back at you. It does actually show you all the target utilization rate for all of your members of staff. So a principal would be 30%, and a junior member of staff would be 85%. And again, this is typically what we see in most professional services businesses. Junior staff do spend a lot more time on chargeable work than senior staff, and that's perfectly right. Just reminds you that you've got 30 members of staff. What it does do, though, is it works out the chargeable days and the total chargeable days of those members of staff. It then tells you what the costs are, the total costs, and that includes staff costs and personal costs, and you can actually see that adds up to the 1.8 million that we showed in the data sheet. There is an adjustments row. This is something that we, certainly when we were working in professional services, we would put in overs and unders in each of these items, predominantly so that we would get our hourly billing rates to round up or down. So for example, here we would put maybe 260. Here we might put 150. Here we might put 80. Here we might put 35. Here, for example, it seems ridiculous that a manager would be more expensive than a senior. Sorry, less expensive than a senior. So we would put some costs in here to artificially inflate this number and then put some numbers to deflate this number, because you do sometimes get weird anomalies like that. So we would put in this adjustment column. The important thing about the adjustment column, and the reason why this number is red, is that in order really to get back to your profit number that you want to get, you should make sure that these adjustments net out to zero. Obviously, if they don't, then what you'll find is that this number will change and this number will change. But again, this isn't something you should particularly worry about, because the ultimate goal is to get an idea of what your billing rate should be, and what and certainly to understand what your standard cost rate should be, so that you can more accurately establish what your profit, your project and your client profitability is going to be. And of course, here you've got your total estimated income based on these billing rates and the expected hours that those people are going to work, and that should obviously be 30% more than the 1.8 million, because in our data sheet we said that our target markup was 30%. Okay, like I said, the final sheet is a validation sheet, and all that really does is make sure that we're getting the right numbers. So you can see you've got the 1.8 million, and that number is all fine. The important numbers to look at are these this validation numbers, and make sure that these numbers are all zero, and that this number here is zero. And actually, if it's not, what you'll see there is some sort of conditional formatting in the spreadsheet to highlight that fact. So that's it really on this spreadsheet. Like I say, we really found it totally useful. Every business I work in, I implement this, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to share it to as many people as possible by giving it out free on our website. If you want a free copy of this standard cost and billing rate sheet, all you have to do is go to highlysolutions.com. If you do have any questions, please feel free to contact me or us on info@highleysolutions.com. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please share it with your network and like it. Thanks and have a great day.